Well, we are looking back at my nice looking bed again, because it is once again that time for me to talk about the games I bought this month. In which case it is for January 2024. So Happy New Year everyone. It's time to go through the games of 2024. I've got a bunch of games for the PSP, the DS, the Game Boy, Color, the Game Boy Advance, and some Xbox games, the GameCube, PS3, PS4, and 3DS. Just a mixture, just a couple of mixtures of some old games for all platforms. Yeah, so let's get started on that. So first of all, what should we talk about? We'll talk about the DS and 3DS. First of all, for the DS, I've got all this right here. I've got 3 games for the DS this month, and that is number 1, Bleach Dark Souls, and is not to be confused with From Software's franchise, the same name, but we're known for one entire thing. Yeah, that. So this is Bleach Dark Souls, and it's a game based on the popular anime and manga series that my older brother has tried to get me into, and yeah, I've seen a couple of episodes of it, and it's actually pretty good. I'm actually into it. And it's actually pretty funny as well. Pretty entertaining stuff. Bleach Dark Souls is a fighting game. Like one-on-one fighting game where it's kind of like a mix between SNK's Samurai Showdown and Fatal Fury. Where it's well, fights can take place in 2 planes, and you can jump back and forth between the 2. And it reminds me also of Samurai Showdown as well, SNK's popular fighting game series, because of the weapon-based fighter. Every character has a set of different special moves. And this moves that you can pull off, and the good thing is you can pull these off on the touch screen as well. If you find quarter circle forward motions, or half circle forward, half circle backwards, up down, quarter circle forward, whatever fighting game moves, techniques too hard, you can just press them. You can just press on the touch screen. And it's pretty good, and it is pretty good. All things considered, it's not necessarily a bad fighting game. It has got all the characters from the anime, and there is another Bleach fighting game as well. The Phantom Blade, I think it's called. Which, yeah, maybe I'll get that one as well. And now this right here, and I'm also going to bring in this one right here. I found 3 Pokemon games, 3 main Pokemon games, and also a Pokemon spin-off right here. And these Pokemon games are Pokemon Diamond for the Nintendo DS, and Pokemon Black version 1, also for the DS, And this third one right here is a Game Boy Advance cartridge, and it is Pokemon Ruby. I showed in one of my videos before that I had the remake of Pokemon Ruby, which was Pokemon Omega Ruby for the 3DS. This is the original. So I have not only the remake of it, but I also have the original version as well. And I don't have Emerald yet, but I have seen that Emerald is extremely expensive. Even the cartridge of it doesn't come very cheaply. So I'm likely going to hold off from getting Emerald until I can somehow find that very cheaper. And these are all free main Pokemon games where you're capturing Pokemon to take on gym leaders, and occasionally you take on the evil organization, and then you go on to do more Pokemon stuff, trade Pokemon with some mates of yours, and then you eventually take on the big bat. Then you take on the big Elite Four. But Black introduces like a new story or something, where we eventually take on an organization, take on something that's about to take over the world or something. I haven't played any further than just the first hour intros of each. But it gives me an incentive, but it gives me a look into how these games are working, but they all work fine. Now we got Pokemon Pinball, which is an old game I used to have. When I first had a Game Boy Color and a Game Boy Advance SP. But now I got it back again, just as a cartridge only one, but that's okay. But I got the battery in for the Rumble, and the Rumble works fine. And as for the game itself, it's a Pokemon game, but it's a pinball where you choose between either red table or blue table, and you hit bumpers and smack the Pokeball around to hit things around, and then eventually you get into a capture mode where you get to capture a Pokemon. It's really fun. It is pretty fun. Just the physics are a bit off in some point in a couple of areas. At least compared to a real pinball game. I've never actually played a real pinball game in real life. So, but oh well. Still, great one to have. Really good ones. Really good Pokemon games. And the other Game Boy games I also have are one which is boxed and one which is unboxed. Both F-Zero games. There's F-Zero Maximum Velocity and F-Zero GP Legend. Both for the Game Boy Advance. And these ones didn't cost pretty much. They weren't too bad for the prices they were and for what they were worth. F-Zero Maximum Velocity and F-Zero GP Legend are both F-Zero racing games. And they're alright. I only played them for like five minutes each just to see the film working, and they work fine. So nothing to say about this one. Alright, next up, now we got a 3DS game, which is a remake. I have Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga for the Game Boy Advance. I have the remake of Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, which has Bowser's Minions, which is an additional thing. Looks pretty good. It's a pretty good looking remake. And again, I really miss Alpha Dream's titles of these because they did some good stuff, and we're gonna miss those guys a lot. I've only played 5 minutes of this just to see this game working on my 2DS, and it works fine. Really do like this. It's a good readaptation of a popular Game Boy Advance RPG. If you like RPGs on the Game Boy Advance, Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga is one to check out, as well as this remake as well. It's really fantastic. Right, next one is on the PlayStation 4 with Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition. I've got the Complete Edition of Horizon Zero Dawn, one of the best PS4 games out there, and it's a really good one. It's a stealth action RPG where you can avoid these machine monster enemies, or you can take them out. In combat, and the combat is really satisfying. It's powerful, pretty fun, and it even got a pretty good sequel as well, which is also worth checking out. Horizon Forbidden West. Yeah, truly another good one. Now here's another game. This time on the PlayStation 3, I have Assassin's Creed Rogue. I started collecting the other Assassin's Creed games that I'm missing on the PlayStation 3, and there was this one which I was missing, Assassin's Creed Rogue, and I also got one more Assassin's Creed game that's missing, because I have got Assassin's Creed 1, Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed 3, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, and also Brotherhood and Revelations, all on the PlayStation 3, as well as the original game on the Xbox 360, which is just for achievements only. Like, if I care to get all the achievements on the Xbox version. And yeah, and this is another entry in the Assassin's Creed series. This one, it was done in 2014, and to coincide with Unity, which both those games were rushed. But yeah, they were shoved out the door for maximum profits. Customer satisfaction be damned. And I only played at least maybe like an hour of Assassin's Creed Rogue, and didn't really get into it to see what goes on yet, but oh well, still early. Still not bad, I guess. Next, I have one GameCube game and one Xbox game, and these are Serious Sam and Serious Sam: The Next Encounter. Serious Sam, the Xbox version, is the original game of the Serious Sam series, and it's the Xbox version based on a port of the game that was hugely popular on PC at the time. And it is just a simple run and gun FPS game where it's just you and a big band of enemies with a ton of guns to use. And you get better guns as you go along each level. Yep, same with this one. Get a whole bunch of different guns, from magnums to a chainsaw to Uzis to big machine guns, shotguns, rocket launchers, chain guns, so on. And these games are all fantastic. The GameCube version is a new, a more later entry into the series, Whereas Serious Sam on the Xbox is just the original game, ported from the PC version. So, good games. They're both really fantastic games. And the next up is a third-person classic, and it is, ladies and gentlemen, it's the pain in the butt. Pain to the max. Max Payne on the Xbox, the original OG Xbox. I have got this game on my PS4 as an emulated PlayStation 2 game. The Xbox version is based upon the version that's on PlayStation 2. Just have better performance and running a lot better than the PS2. But the differences on console as opposed to the PC version is that the console version has to have some loading time, has to have some loading times due to like consoles having some limitations compared to the PC version. But still, the Xbox version of Max Payne is still a pretty good time. It's a third-person shooter where you use bullet time mechanics to shoot dodge around enemies. And it is very very relentless. Especially the early chapters of the game, it can be very, very tough. Enemies can deal a lot of damage to you. Even on the lowest difficulty, enemies just halt. Enemies can really just unload onto you. And you have to really make use of the shoot dodge mechanics, bullet time, to really get the upper hand on enemies before they gun you down. So it's truly a magnificent. It's truly a magnificent game, and I'm gonna look to go through the PlayStation 4 version to get the all the trophies, which it doesn't have a platinum trophy, but still it has trophies, which is all I care for. Right, now I got 3 games here. I've got Medal of Honor Heroes 2, a World War II first-person shooter takes place in battles in World War II. So it's good, and this one's a really good one, but it's a far better game on the Nintendo Wii. And then I got a very popular and famous one on the PSP, Daxter, which is an absolutely hilarious game. It follows before the events of Jak 2 Renegade, with it following Daxter with what he was doing after Jak in the beginning of Jak 2 Renegade got captured. And it's a pretty good game. I actually really like that one. And then lastly, for the PSP, which I picked up, which I was not expecting to find there, but I found it anyway, and I figured I'd get it straight away before someone else picks it up before me, was Breath of Fire 3. Breath of Fire 3 is an interesting Breath of Fire entry in the series. I'm quite into Breath of Fire. I want to get into it myself. I've played Breath of Fire 2 a long time ago, but I've never played the other ones. I've never played the original, or the third, or the fourth one. I know the fourth one is on the PS1. I know the original was on the SNES, which we Europeans never got, but there's a Game Boy Advance version which we did get. Then there was the third game that was on PS1, but there's the PSP version, which is a lot cheaper to get. Because the PS1 version costs like up to £60 here in the UK. Whereas the PSP version, it was way cheaper. It was £15 for me. So that was way better. And I've only played the first couple of minutes of it, 10 minutes of it at most, where I met up with Ray and Tipo, who were two orphans. And I'm just slowly getting come to grips with the game and such. And exploring around, figuring out what to do. I'm trying to learn the techniques from enemies. Yeah, which is kind of a thing in Breath of Fire 3. You're supposed to examine enemies. So when an enemy does a special attack on you, you can learn from them. It takes a bit of time to figure out which enemies do a special attack on you that you can learn from. And also it takes a bit of time to go for a master that can give you the build you want for each character. Yeah, it's kind of a thing. Yeah, it takes a bit of time to know how, but once I get there, I'll figure it out. Still, fantastic entry in the series to get into. Alright, and the last thing to show, and it's just an accessory, is that I bought myself another light magnifier for the Game Boy Advance. Like, I'm still searching around for Game Boy Advance accessories, and I'm not having much luck finding them, but at least I found this. A light magnifier which I can put on top of my Game Boy Advance if I want to play my Game Boy Advance games in the dark. But I got my DS Lite for that if I feel like doing that. But if I just want to play on the Game Boy Advance for the sake of playing on the Game Boy Advance, I just play it like this. But I want to find accessories that'll make lighting up my screen easier. And as well as that, finding a comfortable hand grip to use for this, so I can have fun playing my Game Boy games on it. But yeah, it's a good one. So that is all the games I've picked up physically for my gaming consoles, and of course there was the PlayStation Plus subscription, which gave PlayStation 5 players a Plague Tale Requiem, I think it's called, a Plague Tale Requiem, and then there's Evil, and then there were two other games as well, Evil something. I can't remember. I haven't even bothered to touch them. Yet. And yeah, I can't remember what those games are. But I did purchase a game that was for cheap on the PlayStation Network store called Troopers. Troopers is kind of it is a first-person shooter, yeah, but it's kind of like a cross. But it is kind of like a Call of Duty type game that's got very simplistic blocky graphics. Like, it's not Minecraft or anything, just very oddly looking cartoony graphics. Yeah, it's kind of like a mix. Yeah, it's kind of Troopers is kind of like a mix of simple Counter-Strike and Call of Duty-esque games put together or something. And it's a game that focuses on bot matches. 3 simple game modes where you're either team deathmatch, elimination, much similar to a round-based game mode in Counter-Strike, and gun race, which is similar to Call of Duty's gun game, where you're advancing your gun rank to reach the 11th rank, the final gun to win. And yeah, the game isn't great. Troopers is not that great, but I didn't pay that much for it. I only paid like £1.50 something for it. But I am working on the trophies on that one. Yeah, and I'll eventually platinum trophy that one. And speaking of platinum trophies, I earned about something like over 40 platinum trophies in like throughout the course of a couple of days. Because I had the Project Summer Ice games downloaded. That were simple shovelware games that had some of the most notoriously easy platinum trophies known to man. But there's one Project Summer Ice game, which is Project Summer Ice Bowling Online. But one of the trophies, there's trophies where you have to play with online players. But I'm trying to remember now. But there are trophies where you have to play with 6 different players without shutting off your session. And I'm trying to organize a group to try and do that with, but it's not easy. But I'll eventually get that sorted out and platinum trophy that, and then move on to a batch of PlayStation 4 games that I've got on my hard drive ready to be played and platinum trophied. But either way, so that's what I've got going, and what I've also going to be doing is writing up my next controller review on my GameSpot channel, which is on this thing. I'm working on my controller review on this on my GameSpot channel, and then I'll eventually do this one next also, and then I'll eventually do some organizing of groups to do the platinum trophy boost. But until then, I'm going to be working on my reviews until I can get enough players to do the boosting. So that's going to do it for me for January. I'm not going to be buying mini games for February because I'm going to be saving up for just a couple of replacement items and hopefully some accessories I want to get for my Game Boy Advance. So this is going to do it for this video, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care of yourselves and goodbye.